And it's us, the Horror Guys.
Hello again, I'm Kevin.
I'm Brian.
And we're going to talk about some horror movies.
Yep. Back to our usual format of 4 movies and a short.
Pretty much.
Although our short's a little on the long side today.
It's shortish. Yeah, it's not really a classic short like we've been doing. It's called Elephant. But more about that later.
Yeah. So what do we have?
We have some movies. We have
Yeah.
we have a really new one called Influencer.
Uh-huh.
And Huesara, the Bone Woman. Fairly new.
Both from 2023.
Yeah. And Ginger Snaps 2, Ginger Snaps 3.
Not so new.
Yeah. 3 is actually a prequel. And then there's Psycho 4 and The Innocents.
Yeah, and those last 2 we're not going to talk about those much here, but those you can read about those over at horrorbulletin.com.
Those are the bonuses.
Psycho 4, The Beginning from 1990, which was Anthony Perkins' last time as Norman Bates. Mm-hmm. It's kind of a prequel also because we get a lot of flashbacks to young Norman and his mother.
And he actually only did a few more things after that, too, before he tragically died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And The Innocents from 1961 is basically... It's a really good version of The Turn of the Screw.
If you saw the Haunting of Bly Manor, that miniseries, that was also a Turning of the Screw variation.
There was a lot more to that one. But
there was
yeah,
a lot
it was
more
in in there somewhere.
Yeah, that was in there too. But yeah, imagine if you saw that greatly condensed into just a movie. But it was really good.
Actually, the book, I think you said you had not read it. I have read it. It's a very short book. It's only like normal book size with about 60 pages. It's a long short story.
Oh, okay.
Okay, but if you like short stories, we've got a free one from you. It's called Jess and the Monsters. Go over to horrorguysshop.com and download it for free. Read it in PDF or EPUB format.
What happens when a librarian starts getting mixed up with real monsters?
It's not pretty.
Well, it's kind of pretty.
You can also pick up free copies of the Horror Guy's Guide to the Halloween Films and a free copy of our monthly magazine, Horror Bulletin Monthly. Issue 20 is available for free. We decided to make that one free permanently for a sort of a sampler. Mm-hmm. If you want the newest issue, is issue 21. And in U.S. dollars, it's $3.99 for an ebook and $7.99 for the paperback. Mm-hmm. And you can get that every month, pretty much anywhere you get books: Amazon, Kobo, Barnes & Noble, or horrorguysshop.com. All right, what's up first?
Influencer from 2023, brand new, directed by Curtis David Harder, written by Tesh Gadakanda and Curtis David Jard. Is it Jarder or Harder? You have one of each here. Uh-oh. Typo.
One of each? Oh, I do, don't I?
Yes. His name is one of those. And it stars Emily Tennant, Rory J. Saper, and Cassandra Nod. Runtime is 1 hour and 32 minutes, and there's a trailer in the show notes.
Yeah, and this one is on Shudder. One of the very few new movies Shudder's had lately.
And spoiler-free, the sets and locations are beautiful to look at, with a cast that pulls it off well and an interesting script that builds nicely, and we found it an entertaining win.
Yeah, I think we both liked it.
Yeah.
Well, we open on a fairly small island. As we zoom in, we see someone lying on the beach, possibly dead. Well, we cut to Madison, a woman who talks about travel. We see that she's a travel influencer, spending time in Thailand. She talks about all these places and what an amazing time she's having, but it looks like everywhere she goes is deserted. She seems kind of bored and unhappy when she's not smiling it up for social media. And this is the weird thing about this movie.
Yeah.
All these fantastic-looking resorts are empty.
Very empty.
She goes into the resort bar and there's like 2 people.
They're very upscale, very, luxurious, beautiful location. And
it's not Disney World. You don't want a whole bunch of kids at these places,
real.
But there's more people than that, or they couldn't make it.
Yeah, that seems strange, but it got across that she's given this front of I'm having a great time. I'm experiencing all this wonderful things with all these new people, and then she goes off social media and she looks kind of bored.
Yeah, it's like the filmmakers did want to pay for extras.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that night, at a bar, a guy dressed like a tourist starts a conversation. He offers to show Madison around, but another woman butts in and rescues her from him. Her name is CW, and she has a huge birthmark on her face. And I thought this was a weird choice of makeup, and then I found out the actress really looks like that's real. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Madison and CW talk about why they're here, and CW asks Madison to go somewhere with her tomorrow. Madison does her selfie talk for her social media, but CW avoids being in any of the pictures. Madison whines about her boyfriend, who isn't with her on this trip, and CW gets them new boyfriends for the night very quickly. Where did they come from? This place was abandoned a minute ago.
Oh, but they went to a place that was busier.
Okay.
Yeah, they were looking at it more of a...
They went to the popular place.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Well, Madison returns to her hotel and finds out that her room has been ransacked, and now she's missing her passport. It'll take at least 2 weeks to get another passport, and CW offers for Madison to stay at her place until then. She calls Ryan, her boyfriend, and tells him that she can't come home right away. He blames her and says it's all her fault, so she breaks up with him.
Yeah, she'd been thinking about that anyway.
Madison and CW end up at CW's house. They take her boat out to a remote island, just the two of them. Madison immediately notices that there's no cell signal here. What is an influencer to do?
That's right.
Well, Madison, never
CW,
joke about this part.
And CW, just says, you can take a break.
Yeah. Madison jokes that CW brought her here to kill her. Like, you're a serial killer, aren't you? Ha ha.
Ha ha.
Don't do that.
No.
CW says no, she's not going to kill her, but she might just leave her here alone forever. She's very convincing about how Madison will starve to death or die in about 3 days without water. Madison laughs. I like that, but people would notice I'm gone. And then there's more talking about how useless social media is. It's all in good fun. And then credits roll.
Quite a ways in.
26 minutes in, credits roll.
26 minutes.
And I'm going to stop there.
Because we don't want to spoil it anymore.
No, it's a new one, and it's good. It's got some twists and turns. It's good.
Yeah, it was.
Well, okay, let's see, what can I say here without spoiling the ending. Why are all these resorts deserted? It's clearly not the off-season, as the weather is amazing. There are several scenes which are probably important. Well, I mean, we figured out what was going on without seeing them.
Yeah, we got the gist.
Where CW holds up a phone with a whole bunch of text on it that we couldn't read. And we've got a very nice 4K TV now.
That was annoying.
Yeah, it's not like, somewhere like on Ted Lasso where you can see 2 lines of text very clearly.
It was a lot of text.
This was a lot of text, and you couldn't read any of it. But I think we were supposed to.
Well, we figured it out.
Well, not really. We just didn't need to know. Needed to be zoomed in a lot closer if we were supposed to read that stuff.
Yeah.
But anyway, the scenery and sets are beautiful. The acting is decent. The plot is interesting and kind of unique. It's a different kind of identity theft. We both liked it.
Yeah, we did.
And next up we have Huesara, the Bone Woman, also from 2023.
You know what's scary? Pregnancy. Pregnancy is scary.
Not as bad as having kids. Yeah. Directed by Michelle Garza Cervera, written by her and Abia Castillo, stars Natalia Soyan, Alfonso Dosal, and Mayra Batella. Hour and 37 minutes. Trailer in the show notes if you haven't heard of this one. It was also on Shudder.
Mm-hmm.
Spoiler free, what happens?
Well, this one combines the fears of pregnancy and body changes with religion, family stress, and mythology, and maybe some dark external forces. Maybe. It looks good and the acting seems natural, but there's too much of a lack of explanation. So overall, we kind of gave it a weak thumbs up.
I was entertained. It was not great.
Yeah. I felt lacking. I felt there was a lot lacking, and
I was unsatisfied. Is there a horrible demonic presence stalking this woman, or is she just pregnant?
Maybe.
All right. Well, what happens?
Well, we open on a woman climbing a large number of stone stairs on her knees, using a pillow to soften the pain. Others are there, and they're walking up to this immense staircase where there's a giant religious statue.
It's all some kind of
it's a shrine.
Religious procession thing.
Yep. And the supplicants are there. They're not all walking up on their knees, but this one woman was. It was noticeable. Well, Valeria places flowers at the shrine and makes a motion as if this is a fertility ritual of some kind. And we cut to a woman on fire, and then credits roll.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, what? Well, Valeria and Raoul have sex. He's into it, but she just kind of wants to get on with her day. And then she lies on her back and holds her legs up, which is another pregnancy helper. After work, she watches children in the park wistfully. And then she picks up a report, a report from the doctor's office. And it's good news.
Yay!
Yay, they're having a baby. Well, they start shopping for cribs. Her mother-in-law, Norma, buys them an ugly one that they don't care for. And her parents,
Carmen
and Louis, yes, and Sister Vero are thrilled. Their prayers worked. Well, not long after, Valeria starts getting severe cramps in her hands. Her friend Octavia hasn't seen her in years, but they don't talk for long. More of that later. That night, she watches a woman jump out of a window, but rather than die, she gets all bendy and weird. Yeah.
That ain't right.
Something not right there. Raoul doesn't see anything and thinks she imagined it. Well, checkup time. The doctor says she's lost 6 pounds and has anemia. This can't continue. She goes home and works on the baby's room. That night, she hears someone downstairs, and we see the broken woman from before crawling around down there. Valeria goes to see Ursula, who does a little ritual and predicts trouble for her. The doctor says it's going to be a girl, but when she sees the baby on ultrasound, she's kind of scared of it and gets freaked out. She takes a nap, and we see a hand reach out from under the bed and break her leg. But Raoul says it's just a cramp. It's not broken.
Well, this is getting weird.
Yeah.
So there's something chasing her, maybe.
Yeah, and she's seeing things.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, let's not spoil that any further.
Well,
it's a pregnancy. It's a horror pregnancy.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
It's no Rosemary's Baby.
And there's more.
Maybe it is.
There's more with Octavia, and there's more strangeness and more, maybe magical things. And it was enough to be interesting, but yeah.
Well, being pregnant can be scary, and yes, a mother's body changes a lot during that time, but this is all taken it a little far. If there is some actual Mexican mythology or lore behind all this, it's not explained at all in the film. Valeria comes off as crazy. It's not even postpartum, as she was weird before she was even pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
The creature effects are good, the suspense is good, and I'm not necessarily spoiling it by saying there's a creature, because we just saw the hand come out from under the bed.
Mm-hmm. And the weird woman.
Is it real is the question.
Yeah.
But I never understood why any of this was happening, and I don't know why she left Raoul and baby in the end. It all made no sense.
Not a lot. But one that did make sense.
It made sense. This next one made sense, but it kind of didn't at the same time.
Yeah, I think it, if we were British or Irish or both, it would have helped, I think.
Well, there's some history involved, too.
There's history involved there, and yeah, this is Elephant from 1989.
Yeah, and we read somewhere that this is, one of the most disgusting, most horrible, disturbing movies that they've ever seen. So we were like, ooh, we want to see that.
We want to see that, yeah.
Directed by Alan Clark, written by Bernard McClaverty, stars Gary Walker, Bill Hamilton, Michael Foyle, 39 minutes. And it turns out there's another movie from 2003 or something called Elephant that involves a school shooting. And I don't know which movie was actually recommended to us at this point. Maybe
sure.
they were talking about watching the school shooting movie.
It could be.
But that's not horror. It's really not.
Mm-hmm.
This probably could be. Spoiler-free, what happens?
Well, this is a series of people getting shot by different people. It's extremely realistic in the acting and effects, and the camera it has an interesting kind of voyeuristic quality.
Like following around, watching the murders.
Yeah. But there's no real story or plot, and it starts getting kind of repetitive.
Yep. This is 39 minutes, so it's not a full-length film. It sort of seemed like it for a while. Well, we start out in Northern Ireland, and we watch a man enter a building. He walks around an empty swimming pool, and then he shoots a janitor. He then walks back out of the building. I think it's the same man. He then shoots the clerk in a gas station. In both cases, we get a long, lingering shot of the dead man after the killer leaves. The man then shoots a bald man in a parking lot 5 times. Okay. Then we switch over and watch another man shoot a guy in the restroom.
And I kept waiting for, some dialogue or story or, why are these shootings all connected? Like
You're going to have to wait and see what the connection is.
Well, but it just keeps going and going and going.
Another man shoots a guy in the park. Another man is killed in the restaurant. Another man is killed in a factory and in a home invasion. And each one of these is a different killer and a different victim. A soccer game, a gas station, an office, a warehouse. At this point, my review has devolved into bullet points.
Yeah, it has.
Parking lot, and another parking lot, a house, an alley, and a big empty place that looks like a convention center. And then the movie ends.
Yeah, and they were completely realistic looking.
There was probably 3 words spoken and had nothing to do in the way of story. There's no dialogue. The film is just a long series of random executions, usually of people in places alone where there's no witnesses. It's all grainy and gritty. The camera work is unobtrusive and effective. There's no real acting, but the people all seem realistic enough. Now, this was from 1989, and as far as we can tell, it has something to do with the Troubles in Ireland. But as an American, I don't know any real significance beyond that those were violent times. This was with the IRA, and, I don't even know much more than that. There was a lot of terrorism going on.
Yeah, I was young. I didn't follow it at the time, and, I haven't followed up on it since.
Well, they didn't teach it in history class because this was after I got out of high school, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, this was aired on BBC TV in 1989. This was not a, rated X movie or something. This was a TV movie. And I'm sure it must have been a real shocker to watch in those days.
I bet it was, yeah.
The problem nowadays is it all becomes repetitive and boring.
Almost.
Which may have actually been the point of the film. The real-life murders went on for so long, and there were so many of them, that they all started to run together and become meaningless. Yep, it's Tuesday, another murder.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, if you're interested in that time period, it's worth seeing. But really, if you've seen one guy shoot another on TV, it's just that for 40 minutes.
Yeah, pretty much.
There's literally no story. So it was interesting, but I won't recommend it.
A historical piece.
And I think it's available. Yeah, it's available on YouTube.
Yeah, it is for free. Yeah.
All right, which takes us to a real movie. Ginger Snaps 2 Unleashed from 2004. Directed by Brett Sullivan, written by Karen Walton and Megan Martin. Stars Emily Perkins, Brendan Fletcher, and Catherine Isabel. Hour and 34 minutes. All right, so we did Ginger Snaps, the original, a year or so ago, and we both liked it. It was really good.
Yeah, it was.
Had some interesting themes to it.
2 sisters and werewolfism.
Yeah.
One of them getting afflicted, and yeah, that was a good one.
We were a little confused for the first 5 minutes because we didn't remember how it ended. Spoiler for the first movie, Ginger, the sister, gets killed at the end.
And Bridget survives.
We weren't quite sure what we were seeing right in the beginning because we had forgotten that little point. But yeah, she comes back as a ghost. So this one, Ginger Snaps 2 Unleashed, and also Ginger Snaps Back, the next movie, were filmed at the same time. And they were both released in 2004. So I don't know what the story with that was. They got their money's worth out of it. But yeah, these both came out at the same time and used a lot of the same cast. So, spoiler free?
This takes place right after the first movie with the further adventures of the surviving sister Bridget. And it is a good continuation. Well made in every way, though it does drag in a few spots. But it's a good sequel overall.
I think of the 3 movies, the first one is the best.
Uh-huh.
This is the second, and the third one is the weakest.
Oh, see, I liked the third one quite a bit more than you did.
Huh.
Yeah.
You're into those Pioneers on the Fort movies.
Uh-huh.
You like Ravenous quite a lot.
I did, yeah.
Not the same thing, but not that far apart either.
Yeah.
All right, well, credits roll as we watch a woman shaving parts that aren't supposed to be hairy. There's also a great deal of cutting and bleeding as we hear some things from the first film. There are syringes and drugs being used as we hear about a cure. So this is sort of a little audio way of reminding us about the first film.
Mm-hmm.
Bridget is in the library as the guy there hits on her. She shoots him down and wants some books on bloodletting. Unfortunately, she's got a bunch of overdue books, so he won't let her check out. It's policy.
That's right.
Well, at home, she has a logbook for her injection doses. We hear in the background that it's not a cure, it just delays the change. She imagines her dead sister Ginger warning her about the cure. Jeremy, the library guy, comes to her door and thinks that she's really sick. She's looking like she's in withdrawal. Well, he puts her in the car to go to the hospital as another werewolf attacks the guy. Bridget staggers off into the snow and passes out. Which was a big mistake.
Yes, it was.
Well, she wakes up in a hospital, and Alice comes in. She's the doctor or whatever that runs the facility. Bridget asks about Jeremy, but Alice thinks the blood was all Bridget's after overdosing. They didn't find Jeremy. They all think she's a drug addict because of the very, very many track marks on her arms. The whole place is a drug rehab clinic, and Bridget immediately makes a run for it, but it's not an easy place to escape. They lock her back in her room.
She's a drug addict of sorts, just not that kind of drug addict.
Yeah, but, later on, they do a blood analysis to see what she's addicted to, and they find out there's not really a real drug.
And yet they still keep her there.
They get state money.
Yeah.
That's explained later, too.
Yeah, it is.
Well, Bridget goes to group therapy, and there is a vast amount of eye-rolling with these people. Bridget talks about turning into a werewolf in group, but the doctor thinks that's just code for being a lesbian. Well, everybody knows that. The blood test comes back as monkshood, which is completely legal, not addictive, and not a stimulant at all. It's also known as wolfsbane. Another patient, well, she's not really a patient, she's more like a permanent guest, named Ghost, overhears all this. She reads comic books and knows the connection between wolfsbane and werewolves. She immediately suspects. Luke, one of the staff people, brings Bridget some of her drug in return for sex, but she turns him down. The next day, everyone throws pennies at Ghost until Bridget puts a stop to it. Ghost asks Bridget about werewolfism. She noticed that Bridget now has pointy ears. Ooh.
Signs.
Long hair, so not everybody notices, but if you're watching, you can see it.
Yep, the signs are there.
Ginger reappears and tells her to either give in or give up. She ends up cutting the tips of her ears off.
Which looks painfully realistic when she did that. Ow, yeah.
That night, Ghost goes into the abandoned part of the hospital and finds Tyler having sex with another patient and giving drugs to them. She gets into his stash and takes Bridget one of her doses. Tyler tells Bridget no, and then he shoots it all over the floor. She gets on the floor and licks it up. That doesn't really do anything.
Yeah, she talks about that.
But it builds up
later.
the drug addiction analogy a little bit.
Yeah.
Dr. Bruckner then gives a group masturbation lesson for 18 girls at once. And we're like, what?
What? Yeah.
No, it's just a dream where she dozed off during guided meditation. She runs to the mirror. I bet they did that just for the trailer.
Probably, yeah.
And her ears have grown back after her eyes have changed color. We see that there's a full werewolf stalking around outside the hospital, and Ghost finds that Rocky the dog has been eaten.
Poor Rocky, except for his head. She finds his head.
Yeah, his head's intact.
Yeah.
She carries it inside.
Yeah.
Well, Bridget finally plays nice with Tyler and gets her injection. Ghost thinks Bridget killed the dog and blames her, but Bridget denies it. It found me, Bridget says. Ghost tells her about a way out through the air vents, and which takes her to the abandoned section of the hospital, where she finds another patient who's really stoned. The werewolf attacks the patient as Bridget watches. Bridget meets up with Ghost, who promises that she knows a way out. The werewolf attacks Bridget, but Ghost sets him on fire. They steal a car and get away. I didn't think it would be that easy.
But it was.
Bridget tells her story about Ginger in the first film. The other werewolf wants to catch up and mate with her, so Ghost has the monk's hood, but she forgot the needles, so they head to Ghost's grandmother's house. And Ghost's grandmother's name is Barbara, and she's in the drug. We don't know why this is.
Which was weird. She's badly burned.
She's a very badly burned victim, all in bandages, but she's in this drug rehab place.
I guess so Ghost can be there with her, or she can be there with Ghost. Because Ghost is a patient at the drug rehab place.
It's not a real hospital. It's just a drug rehab place, but yet they've got this burn victim and her granddaughter there.
Yeah.
It makes no real sense. Don't think too hard.
Don't think too hard about that.
Well, Ghost sets a trap for a werewolf, but a deer sets it off instead. Bridget drinks the deer's blood, and they meet up with Tyler to get more of her drugs from him. He finally gives her some of it, but she has some kind of unexpected reaction that really scares the other two.
Mm-hmm. It looks like she's changing more. Rather than staving it off, it made her change more.
Tyler does something bad to Ghost, tears her clothes off or something. We don't see it. And Bridget grabs a knife. She locks him outside, knowing the werewolf is out there. "Don't you just love the sound of nature?" asks Ginger as the monster tears Tyler apart. Well, Ghost and Bridget get all home alone as they set up traps in the house. Ghost shoots at the monster, but it actually turns out to be Alice who has come looking for them. Bridget comes in, and she's not looking good. She's starting to turn. Bridget then accuses Ghost of lying about Tyler and what happened to her grandmother, but Alice pulls a gun on both of them.
Yeah, Ghost has apparently some issues telling reality from fiction.
Yes.
And, it becomes questionable whether Tyler actually did anything to her. And
It sounds like he didn't.
Earlier, she has this long story about how her grandmother got tragically burned from, she was smoking in bed and stuff ignited. And Bridget actually sees
if you smoke, I might choke.
If you smoke, I might croak. It's a cute frog sign, realizing that Grandma was not a smoker. And so Ghost totally lied about that. And
She's lied about a few things.
Yeah, she has been. Yeah.
But before anything else happens, the monster attacks, and Alice and Ghost go hide in the attic. Well, the werewolf comes in and sniffs Bridget before she stabs it. Then she beats it to death with a curling stone.
Very effective weapon.
Ghost then kills Alice. Bridget crawls up out of the basement and asks Ghost to kill her. Ghost then locks her in the basement instead. And then we find out who the real monster of the film is.
Ghost has a pet.
All right, well, it does drag in a few places, but the story is solid and a good continuation of the first film. It had been a while since we saw that first film, but this one filled in the blanks to cover what we'd forgotten pretty well. We never really did get the whole truth about Ghost and Grandma Barbara, but we get a scene at the end that makes it look like it's not going to go well for Barbara.
No.
Overall, it's good.
Yep, it was.
Takes us to Ginger Snaps Back, The Beginning, 2004, directed by Grant Harvey, written by Christina Ray, Stephen Massacati, stars Catherine Isabella, Emily Perkins, Nathaniel Arkin, and J.R. Bourne, hour and 34 minutes. Spoiler free. A couple hundred years ago. What?
Yeah.
It's a prequel.
It's a prequel.
A couple hundred years ago, there were a couple of sisters named Ginger and Bridget who look exactly like the two sisters in the modern movies with the same names.
Almost like the same actresses were playing them.
That too.
Yeah.
As the title implies, this is an origin story of the werewolf curse in the previous two Ginger Snaps movies. It's a bit drawn out, but the horror guys, we should call ourselves the gore guys.
Yeah.
The horror guys have split opinions with one thumbs up and one thumbs down.
And that would be me with the thumbs up.
And that would be me with the thumbs down.
I liked it.
I was bored. I was waiting for this to end.
Okay, I was not bored. I thought it was quite good.
Okay, well, first of all, a prequel is fine, but don't use the same actors.
That was a strange director choice.
Or give them, the grandparents or something, the great-great-grandparents way back when, but they got the same first names.
Mm-hmm. And
I don't know that there were a lot of Gingers in 1815.
It's not literally the same girls.
No, it's not. They're different characters.
Yeah.
All right, well, what happens?
Well, in 1815, a group of soldiers from the fort went to pick up supplies, and they never returned. We get glimpses of them being eaten by werewolves as credits roll.
And get used to it. These are the last werewolves you'll see in the last 10 minutes.
There's words on the screen that fill us in on this a little bit. Well, two sisters, Ginger and Bridget, ride through the snow on a horse. They get off their horse and walk into an empty camp. It seems intact, but there's blood and wreckage everywhere and no people, except for one old woman who talks about her sister. She gives them weird necklaces before saying, "Kill the boy," or one sister kills the other.
'Tis the prophecy.
It is the prophecy. Well, the horse runs away. That's a problem. And Bridget gets her foot stuck in a metal spring trap.
That's even more of a problem.
Owie, yeah. An Indian hunter and his pet wolf stop to help her. He leads them to the fort. The commander, Wallace, interrogates them, and the Reverend thinks they need to throw them out since their story cannot be verified. The doctor uses leeches on Bridget's injured leg and talks about the monsters in the woods.
What? There's monsters in the woods?
Yeah, and we both observed and commented on the size of this fort and how well built that main structure is.
Well, the fort on the outside, the big log walls don't look like that much, but there's this giant house inside.
It's gigantic and beautiful and so well constructed.
And
out in the
you're not
middle
going
of
to see
nowhere.
something like that out in the middle of the frontier.
Boy, that just seemed out of place, yeah. But it's a nice house, nice bunker, yeah. Well, everyone comes to a big dinner, and the women, understandably, are the center of attention. And there's a lot of conflict between the men for reasons that we don't understand yet. And there's a howling from outside, and dinner breaks up. And, of course, the Reverend accuses the girls of being evil.
Because girls.
And Reverend, he's kind of whacked. He's over the top. He thinks everything is evil, and he thinks that the monsters are there because, they're all sinners. And
God's vengeance.
He rants a lot about that. Well, late that night, Ginger hears crying and tracks it down. It's a deformed little boy who attacks her and bites her. She wants to leave, and they go to the gate, but the guard catches them as they open the front gate. Before that can escalate, a werewolf attacks the gate from outside. Well, there's pandemonium as one guy actually gets pulled out the gate, and they're trying to get it shut and everything. And the Reverend locks the girls inside a building with one of the monsters that breached the wall. But the Indian guy, Hunter, he shoots it with an arrow.
Now, just to point out here, we're not being racist with this. The IMDb credits list him as Indian Hunter.
Indian Hunter.
So he doesn't have a name.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think maybe is Hunter literally his name, or they just call him They just call him Hunter.
Well, that's possible, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, because he is a hunter.
Yeah,
But anyway, yeah. Well, they go back to their room as the battle continues outside. In the following day, Ginger gets friendly with the Indian hunter, who has a vision of death. Oh, Ginger does. Ginger has the vision. There's a confrontation between the doctor and Finn, and it looks like Finn has been bitten. So the doctor orders Finn to put a leech on his chest as a test. And the leech swells up instantly, so the doctor shoots Finn.
I mean, it's like it's an inflatable leech. It goes from being a little worm to a giant thing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the monster that attacked the girls and was killed has the tattoo of the brother of one of the men and a glass eye, just like the brother had. So
That couldn't be him, could it?
Well, yeah, it can. Yeah, there's no arguing now that these are the former guys that disappeared from the fort are now the werewolves.
The ones who went off for supplies.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of arguing and angst. Ginger gets sicker and sicker from her bite. The commander's son, Jeffrey, has been bitten and is slowly turning into a monster. He's the one that bit Ginger. Well, the men grab the women in the middle of the night and take Ginger prisoner. Doc wants to give Ginger the leech test, but the commander orders him not to.
They could have saved a lot of time and trouble if they'd have just given her the test.
Well, the commander, because Bridget said, if you let this happen, I'll tell them all about your son.
Oh,
because
right.
he's hiding his son away and not admitting, he's hoping the son will get better or something. And so the commander says, no, we won't do the leech test. Well, but the commander does say Ginger has to leave. And according to the old woman's prophecy, the only way for them to survive is to kill Jeffrey. That's what she was saying, kill the boy,
or one sister
kills the other. Yeah. Well, Ginger tracks down Jeffrey, but she can't bring herself to kill him. And Commander Rowland ends up having to shoot his own son. The girls leave the fort, head off through the woods, and they find the old woman again with the prophecy, but she says it's too late.
You didn't kill the boy.
You had to kill him before he bit you. Yeah, so it's too late. The curse has been passed on. But the woman tries to do a ritual for Bridget, and she has a vision of herself stabbing Ginger to death. When she wakes up, the old Indian woman is dead. And the hunter, he comes in. He eventually ends up taking Bridget back to the fort, leaves Ginger out there. Well, the Reverend, he's on his high horse. He wants to burn Bridget on the fire. But she says Ginger will be coming for her. Well, Ginger comes back, fights with James, the worst of the humans. And she claws his throat out before opening the gate and letting her friends inside.
There are werewolves in this movie.
Yeah, you see them clearly here. She's the leader of them now. There's a big battle, and by the end, only Bridget, Ginger, and the Indian hunter remain. And Bridget stabs the hunter in loyalty to her sister, and the fort burns to the ground. But not long after, Bridget starts to freeze to death. Ginger says she's not cold in her condition, and so Ginger infects her sister.
Okay, that's great. Now, how did this become a prequel? I'm not hearing an explanation.
I'm assuming that these two girls have children who carry on the bloodline.
It's hereditary?
Maybe. No, I don't know. Or maybe it just hung around and werewolves were around. And
if I had to guess, I'd say the director had access to a fort set.
I don't have a good explanation.
There was a fort set and some costumes, and they're like, hey, we're making this one movie. Let's make two.
Long ago, there were also werewolves.
Okay, well, the two main actresses play characters with the same name. They're still sisters, and they look alike as they did in the first two movies. But this takes place nearly 200 years before that, and the sisters have no connection to the modern versions of themselves. What is up with that?
Director choice.
It's really slow, I thought. There's an awful lot of talking and arguing and quite a bit of running around. I was bored and eager for it to end.
I was not bored.
Okay.
I was entertained.
Okay, was there something specific you liked?
Just the whole situation of them being trapped and slowly being changed to werewolves and nowhere to go and nowhere to run and then I thought it was pretty awesome when Ginger comes back and she's got them under their control under her control and kills them all, kills all the bad because they're kind of jerks. There's a lot of jerkism going on and not all of them, but But anyway,
there weren't a lot of good ones in there to begin with.
I thought it was overall entertaining.
Okay, one we both agree on also is Psycho 4, The Beginning from 1990. Yeah. It was okay, but it didn't seem necessary.
It was okay, yeah.
It was well made, but there were no real surprises. It lacked any of the suspense or mystery of the previous three movies.
Yeah.
It went back and told us about Norman and his mother when they were both young and alive.
Mm-hmm. Henry Thomas plays young Norman.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and he's good.
All the acting is good. It's just, it seemed pointless. We didn't need to see all this. We could have imagined or, come up with all this stuff on our own without actually having to see the movie.
Yeah, it fills in some of the details of why Norman was so twisted. But did we need to know that?
Did we need to see that?
Yeah.
It was all right. It wasn't great.
Yeah.
And then we watched The Innocents from 1961, which we both thought was a well-done adaptation of The Turn of the Screw. Even the child actors were good in it, which is saying a lot for 1961. It was a little long, but it was good throughout.
Yeah, it was. You should check that one out.
Absolutely. And that is our show for this week. Stop over at horrorguys.com to read the reviews or horrorbulletin.com to read the reviews in your email. And until then, we'll see you next week. I'm Brian.
And I'm Kevin.
See you.
See ya.